Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Stickers and Scuffs podcast with our very special guest this week. Mr. Ray Evernham is joining us. Ray, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Hey, no worries. I thought it was fun when you guys reached out. I was like, yeah, heck, all you gotta do is ask. You know, it's easy to get me to talk racing.
It's kind of crazy how that happened, and it's funny how we were able to have this coming together of sorts. And then you guys, I don't know if you did it because we were going to be talking, but you released the schedule for SRX this week. I mean, yes. Thank you. That was fantastic. Giving us some stuff to talk about.
I got to be clear on the SRX thing. I started that last year and founder and whatnot, but gonna step aside this year, and so I'm not going to be involved from the competition side. Certainly, still one of the owners, but we're going to do some other things, and so they're gonna run that this year without me while I'm doing some other stuff.
Well, we're going to have to ask you about how it all came together because, I mean, Graydon and I, we can talk about this till the cows come home about IROC, about what it was. And then you brought this SRX together. Didn't really know what to think at first. And then I turned on CBS and I heard a voice that brought me comfort because he belongs in racing. And you brought him back to us, Alan Bestwick. I'd love to hear what it was like to bring him in.
Well, when we were looking at SRX, it was really about entertaining the race fans, making them feel comfortable. I know that there's a lot of other things going on that, from sanctioning bodies and stuff for competing this and new audiences. And we really designed SRX for the audience that we grew up with, hoping that it would bring along some young folks, because that excitement that used to be IROC was very exciting in the 70s and 80s, and we felt like the timing was right to bring that back. And to do that, one of the things you need is a familiar voice, and not only a familiar voice, somebody that really knows the sport inside and out. And Alan Bestwick is just, the guy's amazing. Alan and I go all the way back when I was racing modifieds at Wall Stadium. He was one of the local announcers. So
he told us about this. Yes,
we're really we're good friends. But I think Alan's one of the best in the business overall. Not just because of the voice he has, but he works hard at it. And he knows the stories that people want to hear.
First of all, it's my first opportunity to speak with you. So thanks for joining us. It takes a lot to make a business go and everything, and it can be high stress and everything. So what do you do away from, I know you're a car guy, so what do you do away from racing? Do you still work on other cars or get away with the family? What's your escape?
I don't really escape from racing. I in cars. I love vintage cars. I love hot rods. I love all types of cars. It seems like that's the only thing that really interests me. I've never really had any other hobby. It was probably a big disappointment to my dad because my dad played semi-pro football and baseball. He was just a great athlete. And I was like, I quit playing baseball to play with motorcycles. The one thing that we do as a family is my daughter loves horses. So she just started with a horse thing, and horses are, I think, more expensive than race cars. So I was hoping I should have brought her a quarter midget real quick and didn't. But I love horses. I love being around the animals. There's just something really soothing about being around the horses. But I've never been a stick and ball guy. I don't hunt. I don't really fish. Now I say don't hunt. I mean, I shoot the hell out of guns. I love shooting guns. I just don't shoot anything but targets.
Yeah, I'm just
aim at targets. Anyway, I don't hit those a lot. But the horse thing is probably the biggest distraction away from racing and cars that we do as a family. Also, my son, Raymond John, he is on the autism spectrum. He does a lot with movies, loves movies, and he writes reviews and things like that. And I'll plug him. It's called Ray J's Reviews. But so what we'll do is with him, we go to the movies or watch movies. And with Kate, we do the horse thing. And, with me, it's just always about cars. And, I love going to the Amelia Island Concours, which I'm part of that, to see I love the classics. I've been out to the Grand National Roadster Show in Pomona for the hot rods, Bonneville. I got into the vintage road racing for quite a bit. We did that, the 24-hour Daytona. We built the Ghost, and so with me, I just there's enough car stuff to where I just don't seem to be able to find an interest in anything else. And I pay for that when we go out and people want to talk about football or baseball, and I'll just sit there and I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh, you make my heart beat fast just talking about it, right? Yeah. That's awesome.
I've had some embarrassing moments because you meet a lot of other pro athletes and you just don't know. So I remember the first time I met Chipper Jones, I was like, oh yeah, so you're a friend of, because he was with Jeff Gordon. I was like, oh yeah, so what do you do? Yeah. Everybody's like, you idiot. But if he raced cars, I didn't know who he was.
So if you're good with us talking about the new schedule for SRX, as Canadians, we don't know a lot about these small, home tracks out in the States. So why did you choose these tracks in particular?
Well, I can help you with that because I actually had that done before I decided to take my hiatus. And some of it has to do with the schedule, right? Where you can fit the tracks into the TV window that CBS needs to have. So some of that schedule, some of it is regional on how far apart we want to keep the tracks, and then our travel. Because you got to remember, SRX, they go on the road. We were Barnum Bailey. We left and we're on the road for 45 days with all that stuff. So all that comes into play, and then the drivers. What can the drivers make? And I wanted to keep some tracks like Nashville on the circuit, because that was obviously our biggest race. It's a market that we want to be in. Stafford Springs, Connecticut. Those people are so incredibly loyal fans, and it's right in between Boston and New York. And I'm going to tell you the Northeastern race fans for motorsports, really strong. And we get people from Canada and New York and coming down. So Pensacola, again, very historic racetrack, and wanted to do, where they have the Snowball Derby, 5 flags. And that happens to be an opening night that there's not a cup race. So we thought, well, that may be a good way to get some cup guys down there. Then South Boston wanted to do something right up here in the heartland, the South, where, very historic NASCAR track. And the 2 dirt tracks, we wanted to change a little bit. So Peevely, Missouri, again, very famous, very good market up there in St. Louis. And Ken Schrader holds a lot of events up there. It's a small track. You can run 2-3 wide, put on good racing. And then Sharon, Ohio, because of the Blaney family. And, that may be filled with all-star drivers because, again, when you got Dave Blaney and Ryan Blaney and Dale Blaney, and it's only an hour flight away from Pocono when all the cup guys are there. So when we laid out those things, I took all that into consideration.
It's very exciting because the SRX series obviously has brought that IROC feel to it. But, one thing that we weren't expecting was having the local legends. And how important was that to you to have a local star come into the series? Somebody like Doug Colby, who goes out, dominates, gets a win, and then gets a truck series ride out of it. And as somebody who I would be honest with you, I didn't know a lot about the modifieds for many years. And then it became available to us in Canada on something called fanschoice.tv. And I was hooked ever since I saw that one race. And Kobe is without doubt one of the best I've ever seen. And for him to go out there, beat those guys, those champions, and the crowd, he fell on his butt, but that was, it was still, an awesome deal. What was the feeling behind that?
Well, Doug Colby is, he is super professional and a great race car driver. A guy that probably could have made it in Cup had he, got a shot at to do that earlier. But for me, that having a local superstar involved was everything. Our whole deal was to take that back to the grassroots, we bring these stars, back to the home track. And not only do we bring them to perform, but we let the home track people participate. So we didn't just have a local racer involved. We had a local crew chief involved in every one of those events as well. So, to me, again, it's about the DNA of racing that Saturday night, the short track people, that family, environment where we all grew up out of. That's where every superstar that that came through the ranks in America started at places like that. So that our whole deal was really to bring to national television what short track racing was all about. So having a local driver involved, super important to me.
It really is. And I mean, I don't think any one of us here would be opposed to SRX making an international trip to Delaware Speedway and having somebody named DJ Kennington rolling around those short tracks. I think he'd be up for it, running around with the SRX guys. Is
no doubt
international waters something that you guys are considering?
Again, I had a lot of different plans with that thing. So, saying where they're going to do, what they're going to do now, originally I had looked at a lot of international opportunities and possibly 2 series in America, or at least on the North American continent. So, but again, business is business. And as I said, I've stepped aside, so I'm not driving that bus anymore.
Well, I was a huge fan I listened to you when back in the day on Sirius XM with Dave Moody, when you do your weekly installments, and he'd call you in Raymond and you call him in Moody, and Americana is one of my favorite shows. And you talked about 4-ply all the time. And I know you built a ton of other projects. Do you ever get to see and get hands-on with any of your old builds?
The stuff we do here in the shop now is pretty cool. I was proud of the fact that Fury, we used basic Fury chassis design, but the body design and some of the changes that we made on the SRX cars were basically mine. So I feel like, hey, I helped design the series, helped design the car, and the whole thing. That was, honestly, that was pretty hands-on. I drove my own motor coach, if you will, from Stafford, all the way back from the time we left. So I was very hands-on, setup wise, and have always been hands-on with setups and aero and things. When we built the Ghost, the car that we won Pikes Peak with,
yes,
that's again 100% my design from the ground up. That car actually worked with the guys here at the shop. When I say that, we put our heads together here and come up with a lot of things. So I'm pretty involved. I don't want to say I'm hands-on as much as I was anymore. Wearing glasses and trying to weld pisses me off because I used to be a really good welder.
My boss talks about that.
Mechanic, but I can still do a lot of different things. But the part that I enjoy, whenever it's time for the car to go on the setup plate to get the chassis and the suspension set up for the race, that's when I'm really involved because that's what I enjoy the most.
I'm the 40+ crowd of this demographic here, and I find in home improvement projects, I farmed out kind of the dirty stuff, and I enjoy kind of the finish work. So I feel like that's a relation where you're kind of putting your setup. Being involved isn't the same as being hands-on all the time.
No, it's not. But again, that's part of that. The days of having to spray wash the car after you run a dirt race or, dismount the tires and all that. I did that, this coming year, by the end of this year, believe it or not, I will have been racing 50 years. Okay. So started racing when I was 15. And I'm proud to say that I won races in the 1970s. I won races in the 1980s. I won races in the 1990s as a driver now, not just with Jeff, just enough to be running the modifieds or running the dirt cars. I won races in 2000, in 2010 to 2020. won road races. So in all of those decades, I've been behind the wheel and at least won one event per year. That's
Wow.
not bad.
Excellent.
That's impressive.
Not bad at all.
Farmer,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's right. That's somebody that
He's won more in a year than I've won in a lifetime, but I'm proud of that. You figure 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah, that's
roughly,
incredible.
yeah, 5 different decades, and have put wins in.
Yeah. So going back to like working on cars, what's it like to have to maintain a fleet of basically identical cars like with SRX?
Takes a lot of logistics and a lot of planning. And I think where I was able to help, I'd been so many years at IROC, and then doing what I did with NASCAR and with the 24 team, and then of course my own Dodge team. That planning is important to make sure that you're prepared, because it's not just about having the money. What you don't have time, so being time efficient and making sure that all the stuff is the same, because those cars have to be really maintained. And part of that is having a really good group of guys. And last year, the group of guys that we had on the road, that led by Ryan McKinney and Rick Wren, those guys they led it. And we had a young lady, Ashley Ruggiero, that were very, very big part of what we did. She's a darn good race car driver herself. But having that stuff planned with a great group was the key to getting that done. Those people worked tirelessly and selfishly. They worked out under tents. We weren't in garages. There were times it was 100 degrees and we had to have fans blowing on everybody. And there were times that we froze our butts off, and we got in like a middle of a tornado type storm at Indy and about drowned, it felt like. So, that group, that experience, really special people. And I don't know of anybody that could have done that any better than they did last year.
It's pretty remarkable for a series that's coming straight off. It's its first year, and something that really we hadn't seen in a long time, bringing international drivers together. We hear as fans, fans are quick to complain. That's what we're here for, right? We either love it or we hate it. That's what fans do. But one thing that you guys did last year that I'm curious to hear your opinion on, you guys were able to change throughout the year through events. If something wasn't working and you heard from the fans, you made changes. Do you feel that sanctioning bodies across all motorsports nowadays need to hear and listen and react a lot more to fan input, just like you guys did, making changes on the fly?
I think they want to, and I think they're trying to, but I tell everybody it looked easy for us, right? But we were a made-for-TV race series, so we didn't have to follow rules. We owned all the cars, with the drivers all worked for us. It's just not that easy for a sanctioning body like NASCAR, IndyCar, Trans Am to make a change like that, because then it costs owners money, then it costs time. With us, we were a made-for-TV series, so I think that those other sanctioning bodies are listening to the what the fans want, but they can't make those changes. Again, they're true competition, right? You've got people paying lots of money to sponsor cars, to win races, to get this, to get that. As I said, with us, it was a lot easier. I think what you're seeing NASCAR do, and I hope that we inspire this, they're going back to the grassroots more. They've changed the way the cars look. They're doing things like we were doing, and it makes me feel really good, because my whole goal with SRX was to show people that racing is still popular. Fans want to see this. They want to see the drivers. Like the cars, hey, we're all a little techie with the cars. That's good. They're neat, but it's not about the cars. You don't pay your money to go to a football game and watch a football or a baseball game. Baseball. You go to watch the people that are playing. And NASCAR right now and IndyCar has got just such great drivers. When you look at the personalities and the people, the stories, you look at what Kyle Larson did, to me, what was phenomenal. And Kyle's a great guy, and Chase Elliott, and there's so many good young stories out there. Ryan Blaney, and people that are coming up, that we need to create those superstars again. People watch SRX Superstar Racing Experience because they wanted to see Paul Tracy, they wanted to see Bill Elliott, they wanted to see Tony Stewart, and the next Elliott's and Stewarts and Tracy's and Elio. How about Elio, man? That guy is just talk about Elio. He's just ready to make at 50. He's getting it. They're winning another 24 hours. So congratulations to him. But I guess what I'm saying is that it's got to be about the driver. It's got to be about the personality to go there and see your hero perform and do it on a short track right in front of you. Not, I love Daytona, that's one of my favorite tracks, and Darlington, but the fans are far away. We're taking it, we're putting it right back. And that's what I think what NASCAR is doing at the LA Coliseum is a brilliant idea. And I know that people are, this and that, but when you said before about the fans, that's their job to complain. I think sometimes a small number of fans complain and it forces people to react. And, I think to myself, look, they're trying to let's ease up on the complaining a little bit and enjoy the show.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray, we got to ask you a little bit about your backdrop there. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So we moved into a new building. I had a building we sold with lots of changes going on, but those are the helmets back there. Some of them were given to me. Some of them are that I bought at charity auctions. But I just, it's nothing like Tony Stewart or Matt Yoakum's helmet collection. Matt Yoakum's going to fly, but let me tell you, Matt Yoakum's got some. He is like the ultimate memorabilia collector. And then some paintings and whatnot. As I said, with me, I just love the sport. I love to sit in here and look around. We're trying to get out some of my memorabilia and put it out around here. And it's my career has been long, so every once in a while I just like to look around and think about how good it was. I just said that to Jeff Gordon the other day. We should just go have a beer and sit around and talk about how great it used to be.
So I have a bit of a proposition for SRX here. In Canada, we get really cold in the winter, so I actually compete in ice racing in old Chevettes.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah,
so I think SRX
I've seen some of that stuff.
If SRX ever wants to come out to Alberta, Canada, my family has five Chevettes that are decked out for ice racing, and we have.
Does Chevrolet even make that many of those things? 5?
I know. Well, we have 30 cars that show up to every race.
No, that's really. I think that's really cool. I actually raced in Canada. Gosh, a long time ago.
You raced at Cayuga, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I always remember I loved the track and felt we were going to do good there. And my car owner chose to put on. He had this brilliant idea. He puts on this super hard tire, and it was just sideways all day for 100 miles. So for 100, I think we ran 100 miles back then. So 100 miles, like we didn't even burn the sticker off that thing. And I just remember I wore the radio battery down finally because just yelling at him all day long. Everybody else was driving straight, and I was just sliding sideways.
Well, ice racing's the opposite. You got to be sideways to be fast. So
I just don't like the cold. I've always told everybody if I go somewhere to enjoy myself and have to put more clothes on, like I'm kind of a t-shirt and flip-flop guy, so I'll wander around the Daytona 500 with a short sleeve shirt on. Now you can wear shorts in the pits too.
Well,
you've been there and done that in Jersey, right?
Yeah, shorts, flip-flops and t-shirt. That was a standard uniform for several years before I went to work for Mr. Penske. Then it got serious.
Nice. Yeah. Ray, we're hitting you with all the demographics here. I'm the over 40 crowd. Cam's in the 30s. Liv is the tail end of the teens, and now we want to introduce you to my sons here. There's a teenager here and a preteen, and they're going to wrap it up with you.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Plug in.
So now I can say that my viewing my age demographic just dropped. I'll tell them now I've got the younger audience, you know?
Go ahead,
We
boys.
knew of you since we were little kids, and we wanted you to know how appreciated
They're
you
still a
were.
little kid. But thank you.
Thank you for all you do for motorsports, and it's a great honor to meet you.
Well, thank you,
Good
guys. I
luck in the
appreciate that.
future.
Thank you very much. And I like your Exalta hat.
Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you, Ray, for coming on and chatting with the boys, Liv and myself. It was a real honor, and we hope to have you on again and chat more racing.
Yeah, no, it's good. You know, as I said, I really appreciate what you're doing. The more people that we have talking about the sport and the more young people that we have interested, you know, it's very important that we keep our grassroots racing strong and keep that going. You know, again, that younger folks understand about our history. I think it's important that they understand how people got to be Daytona 500 winners and Indy 500 winners, and how much of an effect that family life has had on racing, and that everybody that's made it to the big time started at the short tracks. So it's I try and support and make sure that we get that message out, because as it gets tougher and tougher to keep local racetracks in business and tougher to get younger people involved, it's important that we're working together to keep shows like yours on and having people interested.
Man. That was beautiful, Ray. It's almost like you've done that before. Wow.
No, well, you know, I'm just telling you, I was that kid in the grandstand, right? And, you know, back then, my heroes, you know, they weren't Richard Petty and AJ Foyt and Mario Andretti. That came later. You know, my heroes were guys that raced around Wall Stadium and Flemington, New Jersey, and East Windsor, and, you know, guys that, you know, that they're not big names, but I believed in them enough to commit my life to racing because I wanted to be one of those guys. And how I ever ended up here, I don't know. All I ever wanted to do was drive modifieds, and then I ended up in Cup. So that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Ray, thank you so much for coming on with us, chatting with the boys, Liv and I. Thank you guys for tuning into the Stickers and Scuffs podcast, and we will chat with you all real soon.